An Uber driver refused a tip from a struggling passenger, completely unaware she was a tech billionaire testing his character. One decision in the rain would transform his entire life. Marcus Chen gripped the steering wheel as rain hammered his windshield. 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, and he was still $800 short for his mother's next chemotherapy appointment. The notification pinged. New ride request from the Sunset Motor Lodge, the kind of budget motel where dreams went to survive another night. She stood under the flickering entrance light, soaked despite the overhang. Worn jeans, an oversized hoodie, sneakers with separated soles. Her phone screen was shattered, held together with clear tape. But something about the way she carried herself, even drenched and defeated, suggested this wasn't her natural state. "Financial district," she said quietly, sliding into the back seat. Marcus nodded, pulling into traffic. The radio played softly. Rain drummed its endless rhythm. Then her phone rang. He tried not to listen, but her car was small, and her voice carried the kind of desperation you can't hide. "I understand the board's concerned. Yes, I know the prototype failed. Tomorrow morning, I promise. I just need 12 hours. Her voice cracked slightly on that last part. Marcus's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. She was pressing fingers against her temples, exhaustion radiating from every gesture. They arrived at a gleaming skyscraper that seemed to pierce the low clouds. TechVista Tower, the brass letters read. She gathered her bag, then pulled out a crumpled $20 bill. "Thank you for the smooth ride. Please take this." Marcus saw her hand trembling slightly, saw the worn fabric of her clothes, saw himself 6 months ago when every dollar meant the difference between his mother's medicine and skipping meals. "Keep it," he said gently, pushing her hand back. "You look like you need it more than I do tonight." Her dark eyes met his in the mirror, sharp intelligence cutting through the exhaustion. She studied him for 3 long seconds, something unreadable crossing her face. "Thank you," she said finally. "Damien." He blinked. "Marcus. My name's Marcus." She smiled slightly. "Marcus. I won't forget that." Then she disappeared into the building, leaving him wondering why refusing $20 felt like the most important decision he'd made in months. Marcus pulled into the cramped parking lot of their apartment complex at 1:15 in the morning. His phone showed the night's earnings, $247. Still $800 short. Still 3 days until the appointment. Still no idea how he'd make up the difference. The apartment was dark, except for the kitchen light his sister always left on. Medical bills covered half the small table, organized by due date in his mother's meticulous handwriting. The stack had grown taller than the coffee maker. He moved quietly past Jade's room, her door covered in ring light, glow, and motivational quotes about manifesting abundance. Past his mother's door, where he could hear the soft sound of her breathing, steady despite everything the cancer tried to steal from her. His own room was barely large enough for a bed and a desk. On the wall hung his framed Stanford acceptance letter, the one his mother had insisted on displaying even after he'd left school. Computer science, full scholarship, junior year completed. That life felt like it belonged to someone else now. Marcus opened his laptop, the 6-year-old machine taking forever to wake. His GitHub account stared back at him, code repositories from another lifetime. Elegant solutions to complex problems, projects he'd built it to in the morning because the puzzles excited him, because making technology accessible mattered. He'd been 3 months from graduation when his mother collapsed at work. Stage 3 breast cancer. Aggressive, treatable, but expensive. Insurance covered some, but not enough. Never enough. The choice hadn't felt like a choice. Stanford would always be there. His mother wouldn't point 16 months later. Here he was, driving strangers through rain-soaked streets, watching his education gather dust, refusing tips from people who needed them because something in him still believed character mattered more than survival. His phone buzzed. Another ride request. Marcus closed the laptop, pocketed his keys, and headed back into the night. $800 wouldn't earn itself, but something about that woman's face in the rearview mirror stayed with him. The way she'd looked at him when he refused her money, like she was seeing something most people missed. He shook his head. Probably nothing. Rich people in that building wouldn't remember their Uber driver 5 minutes later. Elena Vasquez strode through TechVista's lobby at 6:30 in the morning, her heels clicking against polished marble. Security nodded without checking credentials. Everyone knew the CEO. Her assistant Rebecca was already waiting by the private elevator, tablet in hand, an expression carefully neutral. "Successful evening, I trust?" Rebecca asked as the elevator doors closed. "Illuminating," Elena replied. "How many executives do you think would stop to help a stranger at midnight? In this building? Maybe 3. How many would refuse payment? Exactly 0. The elevator opened directly into Elena's corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed San Francisco's skyline, still gray with pre-dawn light. Her desk held 3 monitors, a cold cup of coffee from yesterday, and a crumpled Uber receipt. Elena pulled up the ride details on her phone. Marcus Chen, 4.98 rating. Member since 2 years ago. She clicked through to his sparse profile, then did what she always did when someone interesting crossed her path. She searched deeper. LinkedIn showed the Stanford education. Incomplete. GitHub revealed elegant code. Repositories untouched for over a year. A quick search pulled up a GoFundMe page. Help Elena Chen fight breast cancer. The photo showed an older woman with Marcus's same warm eyes. Goal, $50,000. Raised, $32,000. Last donation, 3 days ago, $20 from someone named Jade Chen. Elena sat back in her chair, fingers drumming against the armrest. She recognized that particular desperation. Had lived it herself at 23, sleeping in her car in this very building's parking garage, showering at 24-hour fitness, building her first app on a laptop held together with duct tape and willpower. Her mother had died 6 months before Elena's first funding round came through. Treatable illness, unaffordable care. The guilt never quite faded. She pulled up Marcus's GitHub again, studying his code. Clean, intuitive. The kind of problem-solving that came from genuine curiosity rather than credential seeking. More importantly, integrity that chose principle over survival instinct. Rebecca appeared in the doorway. "Your 9 o'clock with the board is ready." "Cancel it," Elena said, still staring at the screen. "I have something more important to handle." Marcus was parked outside a 24-hour diner, eating a 99-cent burrito between fares, when his phone lit up with Jade's face. "Tell me you didn't actually refuse a tip last night," his sister said without preamble. "No hello. No how are you. Just immediate judgment." "Hello to you too, Jade." "Marcus, brother, light of my existence and constant source of financial anxiety. Tell me the rumor I heard from your Uber driver group chat isn't true." He'd forgotten Jade had somehow infiltrated his professional networks. She claimed it was for content research. More likely, it was nosiness elevated to an art form. "It was $20, Marcus said, taking another bite of burrito. "She needed it more than I did." The scream that came through his phone speakers probably violated several noise ordinances. "She needed it? Marcus, you are $800 short for mom's chemo. You're eating gas station food for dinner. You're wearing the same 3 shirts in rotation because you can't afford laundry quarters. But sure, let's prioritize a stranger's needs." She looked desperate, Jade. "You look desperate. You are desperate. This is exactly your problem. You got to save your complex the size of California and a bank account the size of a parking meter." Despite everything, Marcus smiled. This was peak Jade, dramatic, judgmental, and completely incapable of understanding why some things mattered more than money. "When did you become so mercenary?" he asked. "Well, my brother became allergic to success. I'm manifesting abundance over here, Marcus, trying to align my chakras with prosperity. And you're out there reverse manifesting poverty by giving away money we desperately need." "It was her money, Jade. Details. Listen, I'm saying this with love. You need therapy. Or a financial advisor. Possibly both." Marcus's phone buzzed with a new ride notification. The pickup address made him pause. TechVista Tower, Financial District. The same building from last night. The note attached to the request read, "Long trip. Generous tip guaranteed. Please accept. EV." "Jade, I gotta go." "Fine. But Marcus?" Next time someone offers you money, take it. He hung up, staring at the unusual request. Evie. The initials felt familiar somehow, though he couldn't place why. Marcus accepted the ride and pulled back onto the street, wondering if the universe was playing games with him. Marcus pulled up to TechVista Tower just as morning light broke through San Francisco's fog. The building looked different in daylight. Sleek, powerful, expensive. He checked the app again. Pick up at main entrance. Destination, Palo Alto, 45 minutes south. Then he saw her walking through the glass doors. Same woman from last night. Completely different presence. Yesterday's worn hoodie had been replaced by a tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than his car. Her hair, which had been damp and loose, was now pulled back in a sleek style that emphasized sharp cheekbones. The cracked phone was gone, replaced by the latest model. Even her posture had transformed. Confident, commanding, the walk of someone who owned every room she entered. But the eyes were the same. Dark, intelligent, piercing. She opened the back door and slid in, meeting his shocked stare in the rearview mirror with a slight smile. Yes, she said simply. Same person. Different circumstances. Marcus's brain stuttered. Last night you were testing something, Elena finished. And you passed spectacularly. The silence that followed felt charged with something Marcus couldn't quite name. He pulled into traffic, hyper-aware of her presence in the small space. The faint scent of expensive perfume, the rustle of fabric as she settled into the seat. I wasn't trying to deceive you, she continued. I was researching how people behave when there's no benefit to kindness. No witnesses, no reward, no social capital to gain. Just a choice in the dark. And I was what? An experiment. You were a revelation. Marcus navigated onto the highway, his mind racing. Who are you? Elena Vasquez, CEO of TechVista. And you're Marcus Chen, Stanford dropout, Uber driver, and apparently the only person in San Francisco who refuses money he desperately needs. His hands tighten on the wheel. You research me. I research everyone interesting, Elena said without apology. Your GitHub is impressive. Clean code, intuitive solutions. Your passenger reviews mention problem-solving skills and emotional intelligence. Your mother's GoFundMe shows you're 3 months behind on fundraising goals. Marcus felt heat rise in his face. So this is what? Pity. This is recognition. Elena leaned forward slightly, her voice dropping. I know what it looks like when someone sacrifices everything for family. I know what it costs. And I know that kind of character is rarer than any technical skill. They drove in silence for several minutes, Marcus trying to process everything while navigating morning traffic. Elena seemed content to let him think, occasionally glancing at her phone, but mostly watching the landscape pass. When they finally pulled into a coffee shop parking lot in Palo Alto, Elena didn't immediately exit. Instead, she turned in her seat to face him directly, her full attention suddenly focused with laser intensity. I have a proposition for you. Marcus killed the engine, turned to look at her. I'm listening. 2 weeks as a consultant at TechVista. I want you to review our user experience from the perspective of someone who actually lives in the real world. Someone who understands what our technology looks like to drivers, to service workers, to people who can't afford to waste time on poorly designed interfaces. I'm an Uber driver, Marcus said slowly. Not a tech professional. You were a Stanford computer science student with a 3.8 GPA. You built an accessibility app that won the university's innovation prize. Your code on GitHub shows more intuition than half my senior developers possess. That was 2 years ago. I'm out of practice, out of the industry. I wouldn't even know where to start. Elena pulled a business card from her jacket pocket, setting it on the center console between them. Elegant, minimalist design. Her name in simple black letters. $10,000 for 2 weeks. No strings attached. You review our products, attend some meetings, provide honest feedback. If it works out, we discuss something permanent. If it doesn't, you walk away with enough money to cover your mother's treatment for the next 3 months. Marcus stared at the card like it might bite him. This is insane. You don't hire people like this. I built a $3 billion company by hiring character over credentials, Elena said quietly. 3 days ago, you gave me something nobody in my world offers anymore. Kindness without calculation. You had every reason to take that $20. You were exhausted, worried, probably running through worst-case scenarios about your mother's next appointment. But you stopped and helped anyway. That's not weakness, Marcus. That's the exact kind of judgment I need. His hands were shaking. He gripped the steering wheel to steady them. Why? Why would you do this for a stranger? Elena's expression softened slightly, something vulnerable flickering across her professional mask. Because I was that stranger once. Sleeping in my car, skipping meals, watching my mother die because we couldn't afford treatment, and nobody stopped to help. So when I see someone with your integrity struggling the way I struggled, I refuse to look away. Marcus sat in his parked car for 20 minutes after Elena left, staring at her business card. Then he drove straight to Jade's apartment, bursting through her door without knocking. I need you to tell me I'm not losing my mind. Jade looked up from her ring light setup, mid-recording what appeared to be a makeup tutorial. Recording, Marcus. You're ruining my content about manifestation and, wait, why do you look like you've seen a ghost? He thrust a business card at her, words tumbling out. The woman from last night. The one I refused a tip from. She's a CEO. She wants to hire me. $10,000 for 2 weeks. It's insane, right? This has to be a scam. Or human trafficking. Or slow down. What woman? What CEO? Jade grabbed the card, her eyes widening. Elena Vasquez. Why does that name sound familiar? She runs TechVista, the building I dropped her at. Jade. She researched me. She knows about Mom, about Stanford, about everything. She's offering me a consulting position, and I think she might be completely serious, but that's impossible because billionaires don't just hire random Uber drivers and wait. Jade's fingers were already flying across her phone screen. Elena Vasquez. Elena Vasquez. Marcus. Marcus. Her voice rose with each repetition until she was practically shrieking. Do you have any idea who this is? She shoved her phone in his face. Wikipedia page, Forbes articles, TED Talk thumbnails. Elena Vasquez, 33, self-made billionaire, TechVista AI valued at $3.2 billion. Forbes 30 under 30. Fortune's most powerful women. Known for, oh my God, Marcus. Known for unconventional hiring practices and character-first recruitment philosophy. Marcus sank onto her couch. That's really her. She gave a viral TED Talk about hiring a homeless veteran who helped her change a tire. He's now her VP of operations. She literally built her entire company philosophy around finding people with integrity over credentials. Jade was scrolling frantically. She's famous for this. There are think pieces, business school case studies. She's been on the cover of Wired magazine. So this is real. This is the most real thing that's ever happened to you. Jade grabbed his shoulders. Marcus Chen, a literal billionaire, just offered you a job because you were nice to her. This is not a scam. This is the universe finally paying you back for being annoyingly ethical. His phone buzzed. Email from Elena with a formal offer letter attached, benefits package, start date options. Reality crashed over him like a wave. This was actually happening. Marcus stood outside TechVista Tower wearing Jade's ex-boyfriend's borrowed blazer, his own khakis, and shoes he'd polished 3 times. His hands were sweating. His stomach felt like it contained live birds. Every person walking past him looked like they belonged in ways he never would. Rebecca met him in the lobby with a warm smile that did nothing to calm his nerves. Mr. Chen, welcome to TechVista. Elena's in a product meeting, but asked me to get you settled. The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt like ascending to another planet. Glass walls, natural light, plants everywhere, people in casual expensive clothes, typing on laptops, laughing in collaborative spaces, looking effortlessly brilliant. Rebecca led him to a conference room where Elena stood at the head of a long table, presenting to a dozen people who looked extremely competent and extremely skeptical when Marcus entered. Team, this is Marcus Chen, our new user experience consultant. Elena's voice carried easy authority. He'll be reviewing the consumer interface for our new app. Marcus, meet the product development team. A few polite nods, some curious looks. One designer whose expression clearly said, Who is this guy? Elena pulled up the prototype on the screen. Marcus, first impressions? Everyone turned to look at him. The room felt airless. He studied the interface, forcing himself to breathe, to actually look at what he was seeing rather than panic about who was watching. Then his Stanford training kicked in. The pattern recognition, the user flow analysis, the instinct for where friction happens. The onboarding is elegant. He started slowly, but you're losing users at the authentication step. Three-factor verification is secure, but for your target demographic, drivers, service workers, people using this during work, it's too many steps. They'll abandon before completing setup. One developer leaned forward. We tested this. Security is paramount. Security matters, Marcus agreed, warming up now. But so does adoption. What if you kept three-factor but spread it across first use? Initial login is password only. First transaction adds phone verification. First high-value transaction adds biometric. You're building trust gradually instead of demanding it up front. The lead developer was nodding slowly. That's actually brilliant. It solves our abandonment problem without compromising security. Marcus kept going, pointing out interface friction points, suggesting solutions that made the developers exchange glances and start taking notes. His hands moved as he talked, sketching interface flows on the whiteboard. The old passion was returning, the joy of solving puzzles, of making technology serve people instead of frustrating them. Most of the office had emptied by 8 p.m., but Marcus was still at his new standing desk, completely absorbed in reviewing user flow documentation. He didn't hear Elena approach until she set a coffee cup beside his laptop. You know you're not required to work 12-hour days, right? He jumped slightly, then smiled. Old habits. Stanford trained me to operate on caffeine and obsession. Elena leaned against his desk, close enough that he caught her subtle perfume. How's your mother doing? The treatment. Marcus looked up, surprised. Better. The appointment went well. Thanks to. He gestured vaguely at the office, unable to quite articulate what this opportunity meant. I saw the GoFundMe, Elena admitted. Before I offered you the position. I hope that's not too invasive. You researched my entire life. The GoFundMe is hardly the boundary crossing part. She laughed, a genuine sound that transformed her face from professional to something warmer, more accessible. Fair point. Then, more quietly, my mother died of treatable breast cancer when I was 23. We couldn't afford the treatment. I was sleeping in my car, building my first app, convinced I could earn enough fast enough to save her. Marcus set down his coffee, giving her his full attention. The vulnerability in her voice demanded it. I was showering at the 24-hour fitness downstairs. Elena continued, her eyes distant. Parking in this building's garage every night, looking up at these offices, thinking if I could just get someone to believe in me, to give me one chance. But nobody did. Not in time. Elena, that's why I built TechVista the way I did. Why I hire character over credentials. Why I stop when I see someone drowning the way I was drowning. Because nobody stopped for me, and I refused to be that person who looks away. The silence between them felt heavy with shared understanding. Marcus thought about his own mother, sleeping peacefully now because this woman had seen his character in a moment when it would have been easier to ignore him. What did you want to do? Elena asked suddenly. Before you had to leave Stanford. What was the dream? Accessible technology, Marcus said without hesitation. Apps and interfaces that serve everyone, not just people who can afford to waste time figuring out bad design. Technology that doesn't assume everyone has high-speed internet and the latest devices. Elena's eyes lit up with something that looked like recognition, like hope. That's exactly what we're trying to build. Our entire mission is democratizing AI access. Then why does your app require three-factor authentication and assume constant connectivity? Week 2. Marcus's recommendations had been implemented across 3 products. The development team actually sought his input. His workspace had accumulated plants and a proper ergonomic chair. He was beginning to feel like he belonged. Then he overheard the conversation by the coffee station. Did you hear how she found him? He was her Uber driver, like literally driving her around, and now he's a consultant making 6 figures. The developer's voice dripped with skepticism. They've been working late together every night. another added. I'm just saying it looks unprofessional. He's clearly only here because she finds him attractive. Marcus's hand froze on the coffee pot. His stomach dropped. Every insecurity he'd been fighting roared back to life. They were right. How could they not be? CEOs didn't hire Uber drivers unless there was something else happening. That afternoon, a board member cornered Elena in the hallway. Marcus saw it happen through the glass walls. An older man in an expensive suit, his body language aggressive, Elena's posture defensive. He couldn't hear the words, but he understood the message. He'd become a liability. That evening, Marcus found Elena in her office. She looked exhausted, fingers pressed against her temples in a gesture he was starting to recognize. I need to resign, he said without preamble. Elena's head snapped up. What? The board member today. The gossip that's spreading. I'm damaging your credibility. People think you hired me because... He couldn't finish the sentence. Because of what? Elena's voice had gone very quiet. Because of personal reasons that have nothing to do with competence. She stood, walking to the window. The city sparkled below them, oblivious to the small drama playing out in this office. Do you believe that? That you're only here because I find you attractive? Marcus's breath caught. She'd said it. The thing neither of them had acknowledged out loud. I don't know what to believe anymore, he admitted. My work is good. I know that. But I also know that CEOs don't typically rescue Uber drivers. And people are going to assume things that make you look unprofessional and make me look like I slept my way into a position. I don't make decisions based on what people assume, Elena said, turning to face him. Her eyes held something fierce, something that made his pulse race. I make them based on what's right. You've earned your place here 10 times over. The question is, do you want it? I want to stay, Marcus said quietly, but not if it damages you professionally. He paused, then forced himself to add, and not if I'm developing feelings that complicate everything. Elena called an all-hands meeting the next morning. The entire company crowded into the largest conference space, murmurs of speculation filling the air. She stood at the front, commanding the room without effort. I want to address the gossip that's been circulating about our newest team member. Marcus Chen was hired because he demonstrated problem-solving ability, user empathy, and ethical judgment. Over the past 2 weeks, his contributions have measurably improved our product development process. She clicked to a slide showing metrics. User testing scores up 23%, interface friction reduced by 40%, onboarding completion increased by 31%. These results speak for themselves. If anyone has concerns about meritocracy at TechVista, I invite you to review Marcus's work with the development team. His insights have validated exactly why I built this company on character-first hiring. The room was silent. Then the lead developer stood and started clapping. Others joined. Within seconds, the applause was thunderous. Marcus felt his eyes sting with unexpected emotion. After the meeting, Elena found him on the rooftop terrace, the city stretching endlessly below them. I'm sorry I put you in that position, she said quietly. I crossed professional lines by allowing personal feelings to develop. I meant what I said about your competence, but I understand if you need to work elsewhere to avoid complications. Marcus turned to face her, the late afternoon sun painting her in golden light. What if I don't want to avoid complications? Elena's carefully controlled expression cracked slightly, revealing hope underneath. Then we do this the right way. You take the permanent position because you earned it. We maintain professional boundaries at work. She paused, vulnerable in a way he'd never seen. And outside of work, maybe we figure out what this is. You're offering me a permanent position, senior UX consultant, competitive salary, full benefits, equity options. The offer's on your desk. You've proven yourself a dozen times over, Marcus. The only question is whether you want to stay. He thought about Stanford, about the dreams he'd deferred, about his mother, healthy and hopeful again, about this woman who'd seen his character in the dark and decided he was worth betting on. I want to stay, he said, for the work, for the team, for the mission. He stepped closer. And for you. Elena extended her hand formally, her eyes dancing with barely contained joy. Then welcome to TechVista, Mr. Chen. They shook hands, The professional gesture undermined by the way neither wanted to let go, by the smiles they couldn't quite suppress. 6 months transformed everything. Marcus's accessible technology initiative had become TechVista's flagship program. His work featured in tech publications as revolutionary approach to inclusive design. His mother was in remission, thriving in a better apartment Marcus could now afford. Even Jade had found success, her insider perspective on tech culture, content reaching 50,000 followers. The product launch celebration filled TechVista's event space with industry leaders, press, and employees celebrating their most successful quarter yet. Marcus moved through the crowd with confidence he'd once thought impossible, his tailored suit fitting properly because he could finally afford his own clothes. Elena gave a speech from the small stage, elegant in an emerald dress that commanded every room's attention. This company was built on a simple philosophy. Character predicts success better than credentials. Tonight's achievement proves that philosophy works. Our accessible technology initiative, led by Marcus Chen, has reached 12 million users who were previously underserved by our industry. Their eyes met across the room. She smiled, private and warm, before continuing her speech. Later, Marcus drove her home. Not in his old Honda Civic, but in the modest upgrade he'd finally purchased. He still did occasional Uber rides on weekends, claiming it kept him grounded. Really, he couldn't quite let go of the work that had once been his survival. "You know what I was thinking about today?" Elena asked as they pulled up to her building. "That $20 tip. Best money I never spent." Marcus laughed. "And here I thought refusing it was the stupidest financial decision of my life. Turned out pretty well for both of us." He parked, turning to face her. 6 months of careful professional boundaries at work. 6 months of dinners and conversations, and slowly building something real outside the office. 6 months of proving to themselves and everyone else that this was genuine. "Elena Vasquez," he said, reaching for her hand. "Would you like to come up for coffee?" She smiled, the expression transforming her face from CEO to simply the woman he'd fallen for. "Marcus Chen, I thought you'd never ask. Sometimes kindness isn't just returned, it transforms." A refused tip became a career. A rainy night became a partnership. 2 people who'd survived by putting others first finally put each other first. That's not a fairy tale. That's what happens when integrity meets opportunity, and both refuse to look away.